Good evening. I'm Dr. Wendy Wilson, Vice President for University Relations and Chief of Staff. On behalf of President Marion Ross Fedrick, I'd like to welcome you to our third Faculty and Staff Town Hall. The President has several important topics to discuss this evening. She will be responding to those questions submitted previously via email and those submitted during this meeting by way of our YouTube comments feature. In the interest of time, those questions that demonstrate similar focus have been and will be grouped and distilled into one question. As a reminder, this town hall is only being broadcast via the official ASU YouTube channel. With that said, I'd like to extend the platform over to President Marion Ross Fedrick.
Good evening to our Albany State University community. I trust that all of you are doing well, you're healthy, and you're safe, and you're taking care of your families. So thank you for joining us tonight. I also hope that everybody is following the CDC guidelines. You're wearing your mask, you're social distancing, you're staying at home if you're not feeling well. As you all know, on July the 15th, the Albany State University will have 100% mask coverage. It will be mandatory, but please do not wait until the 15th. Go ahead and mask up now. We want you to be in a mask so that you are safe. As we discussed at our last town hall meeting, we're going to continue as we transition back to campus with hopefully giving more information to you. As you know, you all are seeing the Albany State University ASU info, as well as some other items that we're sending out to you. I'm going to get you to go back to the first slide, the agenda slide. Thank you. So on tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to cover a couple of things, really important things. I want you to make sure that you're listening, that you're hearing what we're saying, that you ask questions. Make sure this is a dialogue. Make sure you're posting those questions to our site so that we can answer your questions. So tonight we're going to go over a couple of things. And before we start, I want to do one kind of rule of order that I'm going to need all of you to do. Make sure that you're writing everything down in pencil or erasable ink, or you have a temporary file on Word, because everything that we're saying, while we have a path forward right now, it may change. So I want to make sure that you all understand that we're going forward with these plans, and then as we need to, we'll make some adjustments. So on tonight's agenda, we're going to go over the COVID-19 task force, our university budget update. We'll talk about our return to campus update, our general return to campus information, facilities readiness, technology readiness, our instructional readiness, and also about our student programming. And we'll also talk a little bit about athletics for fall. And then we'll also get into our questions and answers at the end after our athletics director, Tony Duckworth, does his part. So let's go to the next slide so we can look at our ASU COVID-19 task force. I must say I have to give a big shout out to this task force. They have been extremely busy over the last 3 months, working on all things necessary in order to get you safely back to campus. I think they've done a phenomenal job of that, and they will be here. We'll have our two co-chairs, Sean McGee and Kenyatta Johnson, to go through some of those specifics about our return to campus environment. And we're going to go and switch to, I think, our next slide. This is our mask up slide. As I said a little bit earlier, effective Wednesday, July the 15th, all ASU faculty, staff, and students and visitors will be required to wear masks or appropriate face covering while inside ASU facilities and buildings. So that would be mandatory, that will be required. But as I said earlier, please do not wait until the 15th of July. Go ahead and start masking up now. If you need a mask, please let us know. Thank you so much. So our next piece, we're going to go into our university budget update. So as you all know, we started this budget cycle being asked to reduce by 14%, as well as going into furloughs. So that would be non-paid days off for our employees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Mr. Sean McGee to go into our budget update of where we are now that the budget has been approved by the governor's office. He's going to go into a little bit of detail with that. Again, if you have questions, please post those questions and we'll get you answers. So from here, I'm going to turn it over to Sean McGee to go over our FY21 budget planning process.
Thank you, President Fedrick, and glad to be on here again and uh, give y'all an update from where we were last time. As the President said, you'll recall from our last meeting, we had all USG institutions as well as all state agencies had been asked to come up with a 14% reduction plan. Um, Glad to let you know tonight that when the state began to reopen, the General Assembly met and worked hard to reduce that final cut from that original target, and uh, ultimately landed on a final reduction of 10%. Once they approved that, then the USG allocated its funds to institutions, and we submitted our budget utilizing the strategies that had been developed for the original targeted reduction. Uh, but the key takeaways for the 21 budget are this: there are no furloughs included in our 21 budget development. The General Assembly made a concerted effort to pass this budget to a 10% level to avoid furloughs for state employees, and happily, the USG was consistent with this approach, and we did not have furloughs in our plan. The remaining strategies that we used uh, that were in our 14% plan were those of eliminating vacant positions and reducing operating expenses where we could. And that comprises our 10% reduction that we submitted and ultimately was passed by the board here in the last couple of weeks. Going forward, we're going to undertake strategic budget planning will continue. Each division is going to continue to evaluate their budgetary needs through a strategic budget planning process. That's going to ensure that baseline budgets align with the strategic goals of the university. Um, Related to the budget and related to COVID-19, we'll get into a little later. The CARES update, as you all know, institutions across the country were appropriated money under the CARES Act. The first money we received as an institution was money that was intended to be direct payments to students. 95% of that money was distributed out to students that met the eligibility requirements within a couple of weeks of us getting it. However, there was a small portion that was held back to allow those students who may be eligible but had not established their eligibility prior to June 30th uh, to attempt to do so. And so over the next 2 weeks, we will be evaluating those students, and we will be distributing any of those students that established their eligibility, and will ultimately be paying out the remaining portion of those funds. We also have been approved to receive institutional and HBCU specific CARES funding. We've developed a plan that's been submitted for final approval to the University System Office. We have meetings with them later this week, after which we hope to have the final plans approved. And those some of those additional strategies include student emergency grants, some technology infrastructure upgrades, and some additional enhancements to the Student Success Center that support directly the study table and the tutoring programs. I'm President Fedrick. With that completes our update on the university budget.
Awesome. All right, thank you, Mr. McGee. A lot of work has gone into that budget process. You know, we're very thankful to the University System of Georgia, the Board of Regents, and the Governor's Office. One of the items that they included in our budget is $800,000 in order for us to do planning for our simulation lab. That's our health sciences simulation lab. We are really excited to be able to get that started, and we will start that a little bit later in the year. Overall, all those items that Mr. McGee spoke about, probably most of the items, our state appropriations was about $29 million for the academic year. And so being able to also get $800,000 to start the planning for our simulation lab is very good. What we're going to go into next, so thank you, Mr. Gee, for giving us that opportunity. What we also have done is that for our campus, our Return to Campus Committee, I asked Mr. McGee and Ms. Johnson to begin that process for the Planning Committee. And so over the last 3 to 4 months, they've spent an enormous amount of time working on the Return to Campus Task Force, with the task force that we actually showed you in the beginning on that very first or second slide, the task force. And so our goal, the safest return to campus that we could possibly have. I do think they have accomplished that with our reentry committee, this committee here. And so at this time, I'm going to ask Ms. Johnson to provide additional information related to our return to campus, and then we'll go from there. Ms. Johnson?
Good evening, and thank you, President Fedrick. This summer, Albany State University transitioned to a compressed work schedule. As such, our offices are now open 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and we're closed on Fridays. We were planning to continue the schedule until August 7th. However, with our students returning to campus earlier, the compressed schedule will now end on Friday, July 31st. And we will return to our normal business hours, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Monday, August 3rd. Additionally, some units have implemented staggered work schedules to accommodate social distancing. We ask that you contact your immediate supervisor for specific information regarding flexible work schedules and telework arrangements. To further address social distancing requirements, we are asking that you limit any in-person gatherings to no more than 10 people and use virtual meeting options where appropriate, utilizing WebEx or Microsoft Teams. If you need assistance with use of the technologies, please do not hesitate to contact ITS. Lastly, in previous campus communications, employees have been instructed to work with their supervisor and human resources for any COVID-19 related accommodations. This is just a friendly reminder that all requests must be submitted by the close of business Monday, July 20th. I will now transition to Mr. Sean McGee to provide an update on our facilities readiness.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Welcome everyone again. So as President, as Ms. Johnson said, there's been a lot of work going into the reentry, and we want to update you on a couple of items related to facilities. And after that, I'll go into some technology updates as well that should enhance our return. So beginning with the cleaning of buildings and classrooms, these shared spaces, and the technology and equipment. I just want to make everyone aware, I think we've shared it before, but it's worth repeating that all the buildings and common spaces are being cleaned and will continue to be cleaned on an increased frequency, utilizing the appropriate cleaning methods. There's been lots of input during the summer from system resources and best practices on what to do and what to follow, and our facilities team has implemented many of those. Facilities is prepared to respond to any area that may have a reported exposure with enhanced cleaning, be that in-house or via contractors if necessary, or lined up and ready to deploy to any area we need them to. In addition to that, they purchased new equipment in terms of foggers and misters. They're arriving this week, and that's going to enable enhanced cleaning to thoroughly disinfect all spaces. And so these methods and techniques, along with the conventional cleaning methods already in place that are occurring more frequently, are going to assist in providing us a safe, sanitized environment as we come back to campus in the fall. Additionally, you're going to see facilities and partnering with other units and putting up signage and physical barriers and reconfiguring various spaces in customer service and common areas. We're continuing to add this signage where appropriate. We want to enforce to the extent possible the social distancing. You're going to see plexiglass has been added to most areas. There's still a couple that are scheduled for install, but no issues with it not being in place by the time we return. And that'll be completed by the beginning of fall. We've also been doing campus walkthroughs, and we'll continue to do those, looking for cheats in the armor, if you will. And based on that, we're adding limited soft barriers and entryways to maintain that social distancing and discourage mass gatherings at building entranceways. Additionally, we're providing PPE and supplies. As we mentioned in the past, and we'll repeat, it bears repeating, we have purchased ASU branded cloth masks for faculty, staff, and students. Additionally, we've purchased ASU branded hand sanitizer. These items are going to be distributed out to the employees. We're not doing a central pickup because we want to discourage large gatherings. So These will be distributed down through the supervisors and directors to the various departments. And in addition to that, we're going to be placing supplies in each departmental area and in each classroom, and there'll be various cleaning supplies and other uh, items necessary for intermittent cleanup that might need to occur in between the cleaning of the facility staff being present. And one last note from facilities is we're going to ask for all of your help and all of you assist us. As you come back to campus and you see something related to facilities, we're going to ask you to put it in the ticket system. ASU Info has sent out several reminders on how to do this, and we're going to continue to send those out. But this is our best way to respond in a quick manner and be able to track that the item reported has been corrected. So we're going to continue to ask for your assistance in that area. So we're going to move on to technology updates now. And so this is kind of happy to report that we are installing and upgrading all the classrooms. I think you'll hear a little bit more about it uh, as the weeks go on, but we're installing True Touch technology, and what that is that's a company with high resolution cameras, and that will provide high quality face-to-face video instruction while allowing faculty members to use the screen as a whiteboard. And this video whiteboard will be viewable to students currently in the class and those receiving the instruction remotely. The training for these systems is going to begin on July the 23rd and 24th by the manufacturer. These sessions will be held at staggered times in large rooms so they can support social distancing, followed by the opportunity for faculty to test their trainings in nearby facilities. And then also a training session video is going to be created for refreshers on the technology. Other items, we've acquired additional laptops to add to the new student laptop loaner program. If you're aware of students in need of computer technology to complete their assignments, please refer them to the ITS help desk. They have additional capacity to provide these laptops to our students. And then also based on requests that ITS received in the spring semester, they've expanded the student virtual desktop environment. And this will provide students the same technology experience and computer programs that they are accustomed to on campus in computer labs, regardless of if they're using Windows, Macs, iPads, or other end-user technologies. And last but not least, ITS has been able to now provide each faculty member and academic support staff a laptop with a docking station and a monitor. And these units are going to replace the outdated desktops, which many have reached their expected lifespan. They're going to allow for faculty to take their instructional materials with them to classes, provide remote instruction, maintain support, and meet security requirements, along with many other benefits. ITS is currently has their staff in the process of contacting faculty members to schedule the data transfer from their existing device and the delivery of these new units. With that, President Fedrick, this concludes our update.
Thank you, Mr. Gee and Ms. Johnson. It goes without saying that a lot of people have been busy on campus this summer, including our ITS department. When you see the new equipment, I think you will appreciate that equipment, hopefully. But a lot of good stuff is going on. And thank you, Mr. McGee and Ms. Johnson, for your leadership in this area. So as we transition to Dr. Peters, I do want to stop and thank our faculty for the outstanding job that they did over the summer, and I'm sure Dr. Peters will do just that. But our students saw a different type of instruction for the remainder of spring and summer semester. Our students did very well. When we start sharing the data of how they looked this past spring and summer, you'll see that our DFW rates changed, as well as our students' acceptance rate for the online training. So I think that's awesome, and I think that has 100% to do with how our faculty actually switched in such a fast time frame to virtual training 100% of the time. So thank you all for making sure that our students had a great experience. So Dr. Peters, as you get started, up next to provide an overview for our instructional readiness plan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam President, and hello, Ramily. Greetings, ASU faculty and staff. Faculty, thank you for the teamwork that you have exhibited during these unprecedented times. We will need to continue to work as a team this academic year and beyond. With this said, your chairs and your deans should have shared with you the academic reentry plan and instructional guidelines. But I'd like to share a few important items from the plan as we prepare for reentry for fall semester. Faculty will return on August 3rd. Faculty Staff Conference will be held virtually on August 3rd, followed by college and department meetings. The Center for Faculty Excellence will provide you virtual faculty development sessions throughout the week. Classes will begin Monday, August 10th, and in-class instruction will be completed on November 24th. Students will depart for Thanksgiving break, and afterwards, final exams will be delivered in a virtual format November 30th through December 3rd. Faculty, we have identified 2 hybrid instructional models for fall instruction. Model 1 is as follows. One group of students will be in the physical classroom, and the remainder of the students will be attending class via WebEx or video. We suggest this model for our lower division courses. And then we have Model 2. Model 2 consists of one group of students who will be in the physical classroom, and the remainder of the students will be doing work online. We suggest this model for our upper level classes. Maximum capacities for each classroom and laboratory space have been determined according to social distancing guidelines. Appropriate signage is displayed on all classroom doors, indicating maximum occupancy. Seats in classrooms have been rearranged to establish maximum occupancy. We're asking faculty to provide an instructional plan for each course they are teaching by July 22nd. The template for this plan should have been provided to you by your chair, as well as how to create a rotational class group in Georgia View. Again, all of this information can be found in Georgia View, at the Faculty Senate site, and the Provost site. We need time, faculty, to notify our students of their new rotational class structure. Similar to spring, we have identified faculty coaches or faculty mentors who will work with you to develop your hybrid courses. The first day of class will be 100% virtual through your university WebEx account. All students will attend the WebEx session so they can receive information about the rotational schedule of which you will develop. Faculty, you will be in the classroom the first day of class, but again, your students will be attending virtually. I'd like to give a special thanks to ITS for ensuring that all of our teaching classrooms and our laboratories are equipped with video conferencing technology. Stay tuned, faculty, for details regarding training. Even though courses will be offered in a face-to-face hybrid format, we ask faculty to prepare for complete remote instruction as a contingency. This means that all of your courses must be developed with online content in Georgia View by the first day of class, which is August 10th. This allows flexibility to move from one format of instruction to another, as well as it allows for the accommodation of students who are in quarantine or otherwise unable to attend face-to-face classes. And then lastly, faculty, please remember to complete the faculty online instruction certification. The deadline for that is July 31st. If you have any questions or any concerns about anything that I've said, please contact me, your dean, and or your department chair. We thank you for your efforts, and we look forward to a safe return. President Fedrick, this concludes my report on our instructional readiness.
Thank you, Dr. Peters. And thank you to all the staff and the deans and chairs who helped actually develop that instructional readiness plan. And that will be rolled out. It's already been rolled out. So please take a look at that. If you have any questions, let them know. As You are, as I am, we all are concerned about the experience that our students have. As they return to class, I do want to take a moment and just make sure that we all understand that fall will probably be a little stressful for them as well as they return to class, having been cooped up all summer and possibly stressed about a whole host of things. So be prepared. One of the key resources to make sure that our students are doing well is the Vice President of Student Affairs. And we have our new Vice President of Student Affairs started last week, and he returned this week, so I think things are going well. With that, I want to introduce Dr. Terry Lindsay, the new Vice President for Student Affairs. And Dr. Lindsay will now give an overview of our student programming and student support efforts for the fall.
For first-year students and 1256 returning students have committed to reside on campus. Rooms have been reconfigured to account for social distancing. Many rooms that were 3 persons to a room are now 2-person rooms. In terms of temporary off-campus housing, we have a number of students who are on a housing wait list, but we're working with local property managers and hotels to find off-campus accommodation for these students. Regarding our move-in process and what to bring, we have sent information to all of our students and their families about our staggered move-in process and what to bring when they return on August 4th. In our student health services area, we're implementing strategies to mitigate and prevent the spread of the virus. These strategies are guided by CDC, Department of Public Health, and USG, and they focus on cleaning protocol, room capacities, scheduling of rooms, maintaining social distancing. To-go boxes will be available more when possible, or in a hybrid in-person, semi-virtual format. All counseling services are available, provided through, all counseling services are being provided through a virtual format. Students will continue to receive regular updates about external services available to them through the state regarding mental health and emotional well-being. President Fedrick, this concludes my report on student engagement and support efforts. I will now turn the presentation over to my colleague, Mr. Tony Duckworth, Director of Athletics. Tony?
Thank you, Dr. Lindsay. Good evening, Golden Rams Nation. As many of you are aware, this past Thursday, Albany State University followed the recommendation of the SIAC to suspend all fall 2020 sports. ASU is committed to the safety and well-being of our students, coaches, and campus community. Currently, athletics is also working with our ticket vendor to process refunds for the Orange Blossom Classic. The SIAC and Albany State are committed to assessing the possibility of moving some fall sports, including football, to the spring semester. President Fedrick, this concludes my report on our fall 2020 athletics program.
Thank you, Mr. Duckworth, and welcome aboard again, Dr. Terry Lindsay. So now we've done our presentations, and we're going to jump right into questions, those that have already been sent in. So Mr. Fleming and our marketing and communications team will share some of the questions received during tonight's presentation and going forward. So the first question, what is protocol if an employee reports that they have tested positive for COVID-19? And I'm going to send that one over to Mr. McGee.
On to that one, and I believe the next 3 that follow this are follow to me as well. So if an employee reports that they've tested positive for COVID-19, if that employee is on campus, the employee should leave campus, self-isolate, and they should not return to campus until they meet the Georgia Department of Public Health criteria for discontinuing home isolation and have coordinated their return with our Human Resources Department. Employee, if you're at home, very similarly, you should stay at home and self-isolate and not return to campus until they meet the Georgia Department of Public Health criteria for discontinuing home isolation, and they've coordinated with our HR department. The next step after that is to advise employees that you will be contacting Human Resources and that HR will contact them directly to provide the next steps to them. The employees' test results should only be provided to Human Resources. This is to maintain confidentiality of their information and to comply with HIPAA guidelines. In all cases, HR will work with our campus point of contact with Department of Public Health, who will initiate any contact tracing necessary. Human Resources will notify relevant campus administrators. That's including but not limited to the following, and only those individuals that have a need to know will be contacted. But those include the president, the director of student health services, the divisional vice president of the reporting employee, the area supervisor of the reporting employee, and while names may not be shared with the facilities management director, the areas that may need additional cleaning will be. Human Resources, again, will contact that employee directly to discuss leave options if needed, and the employee may contact the employee as appropriate. And as we move on to question number 2, the question is, if any employees are required to quarantine for 14 days, how will job assignments be handled? So if you are able to work, an interactive discussion will be held with you, HR, and your direct supervisor to discuss the option of allowing you to work or teach remotely while you quarantine. If you're too sick to work, HR will discuss what leave options there are, such as emergency sick leave or expanded FMLA. The third question directed to me is, will classrooms be sanitized in between switching of classes? If so, who will be responsible for doing it, and will the persons receive hazard pay? So as we said before, classrooms, like all the spaces, are going to be cleaned on an increased frequency. However, it's not going to be possible or practical to clean every classroom between every class. Cleaning supplies are going to be made available to address any immediate concerns that may be in the space that faculty and students feel need addressing. And those can be during the regular cleanings that are consistent with everybody doing their part to maintain the safe environment. And there's no additional compensation available to those performing the cleanings. And the final question directed toward me in these initial questions is, if we're forced to use sick days or personal time off for quarantining, what happens when we've used them all up and have to quarantine again? Will a person's pay be docked for mandatory quarantine? So you're not going to necessarily be forced to use any particular kind of leave for quarantining or have your pay docked. If you're able to work, as we stated earlier, an interactive discussion will be held with you and HR and your supervisor, and we'll discuss those options of allowing you to continue to work while you quarantine. If you are too sick to work, then HR, again, will discuss those other leave options, such as emergency sick leave and expanded FMLA options. With that, I believe the next question is directed toward Ms. Johnson, so I will yield to her.
Department of Public Health, but we will provide assistance from Human Resources and Student Health Services. And that concludes my answer to that question, and I will hand it off to the next question. The question is, how is contact tracing going to be completed? All contact tracing for Albany State University will be handled by the Department of Public Health, with assistance from Human Resources and Student Health Services. I will now transition to Dr. Angela Peters to give an update on the next question.
Thank you, VP Johnson. The question is, how will students be notified of the first day of class being online? I want you to know that we have many modes of communication. Faculty will send emails to students via Georgia View. We will also contact students through our regular email channels, such as ASU email and EAB email. And then we're going to utilize RAM Central that will provide communications via our Goldie text, our Goldie chat box. At this point, I turn the next question over to my colleague, Dr. Lindsay.
Dr. Peters. The question is, are we allowed to turn students away from the classroom if they refuse to wear face covering? Specific guidelines regarding these questions will be provided by my office later this week. But the bottom line is students who are non-compliant will face disciplinary actions through our student code of conduct process. I will now turn the next question over to Dr. Peters.
And all right. The last advanced question that we have reads as follows. How will course instruction be handled should the faculty member or the majority of the class be quarantined? The response is that the instruction will occur virtually until the instructor and the students are cleared to return to class. This completes our advanced questions. I will now turn the program over to President Fedrick.
Thank you, everyone. Now we're going to go into some of the questions that we've gotten while we've been on streaming tonight. So we'll come up with the first question. Will all important deadlines denoted on tonight's session be shared in a single document to all faculty? And the answer is yes. We'll be sharing all that information via ASU Info and then some other places via shared documents. And one of the things I wanted to say early on that I forgot to mention is for any updates, for all updates, for the most to-date information, please remember to check ASU Info as well as our COVID-19 website. So make sure you continue to go back there so that you can get information. I think that may be the last question. Is that it? All right, thank you so much. All right, so everyone, thank you for joining us tonight. The information we're sharing is really important as we transition back onto campus. So if you have questions, please do not hesitate to ask us questions so that we can answer those questions. If you see some things that need to be changed or updated or that we have not caught, please let us know and we will get out there and take a look. Our facilities and police officers, as well as our faculty and staff, our administrators, everyone is here to help us transition well into campus. We want everyone to be healthy and safe. And we want you to play a part in that. The easiest way to make sure that happens is that you do wear your mask, that you practice your social distancing, and if you feel ill, please stay at home. If you've been exposed to someone with COVID-19 or any contagious disease for that fact, please stay at home. We want to remain safe and healthy. As we navigate through these difficult times, trying times, please do all you can to make sure that you're following the rules that we put in place because they will help us to be safe and healthy. So thank you for joining tonight. Please continue to do questions so we can answer those questions. And if you have any other items you need us to cover, just let us know. Thank you for being on tonight, and go Rams. Have a great evening.